Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is July 22nd, and this is our monthly SIG CLI bug scrub. Our host today is Eddie. Welcome, Eddie, and take it away from here.
I always love your intro and welcome. It's so well rehearsed.
I've been doing that one for so long that
Oh.
I kind of gotten used to it, and I enjoy doing it at the beginning. So it's our trademark.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I just dropped this link into the chat. This is one of those tools that we've been talking about called Triage Party. We went through this queue last time and it worked pretty well. So I think we're gonna give it a shot today, but we're still trying this out. So if you have any feedback, let us know and we can tweak it. This is basically pulling all the GitHub issues and categorizing them into different sections. This section right here is the unprioritized issues older than 7 days. And what I've done, and I've just sorted this by when the issue was last responded to. And so once an issue is labeled as priority or triage, it should get out of this queue. So I figured we'll just work backwards from this and see where that takes us. So first issue, this is an old one. Our sync behavior to copy files from pod to pod. I think we've discussed this on a SIG call or something like this, right?
There were some issues with kubectl copy because of the CVEs that we had in the past, and we've limited the functionality so that it can only copy files, if I remember correctly. So I'm not 100% sure. Rsync behavior. Yeah, I think someone pointed out to a wrapper or a kubectl plugin. I think we can safely close this one as that. I'm not envisioning us doing any rsync type of functionality because it's a problematic thing with regards to supporting what you have on the client.
Okay. Do you want to type that up real quick and close it?
Oh, yeah, I'll do that one.
Okay. That one's too old for me to close. Okay.
So there may be, just as with kubectl copy, there may be security issues as well. Is that correct, Maciej?
Yeah, there were several of the issues. We had a, I don't know, like 6 months period of time when we were fixing one issue and that uncovered additional ones, the majority of which were related to supporting a link. So yeah, we try to copy files. I might have said wrongly, we might support directories, but we do not support symlinks because the symlinks where we had problems because it was possible to escape. Yeah, there was long list of possibilities how you can escape when copying directories. So that's one of the reasons
we should link to some of those security issues when we close this, just so that they have a, if we can.
There is
so they have a,
there is a proposal. There's a CAP describing this issue, this problem. I'll make sure to link to that particular enhancements describing all of them. If I remember correctly, it had all the links to all of the CVEs that we fixed back then. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Thanks.
Okay. Number 554, support for waiting on multiple deployments to complete, and also support for timeouts. This is for rollout status.
I'm inclined to steer this towards kubectl wait command. I'm not 100% sure that the wait command does support multiple resources, but it could be something that we might, and having a more generic approach to waiting for a particular condition is where we want the wait command to fill in the gap.
So, yeah, so obviously API server only, you can only have, you can't really have transactions. You can only really send or apply one resource, not knowing whether or not the other ones are going to succeed. I don't see any other commands where we're working with, that's not true, many other resources at the same time. Actually, we apply, yeah, okay.
I'll comment there and I'll close this one. I'll add it to my list right after the call.
Please add fish tab completion.
I thought that there's a PR already associated with that one.
Ryan has one. No?
Yeah,
No, you don't.
I started creating one. I pulled it back. Let's see. Which number is this? I'm following along on my other screen.
576.
Yeah, so that actually, why is this a different issue? Oh, because yeah, so we'll get fish tab completion for free if we can move to the Go based completions in the latest version of Cobra. When I looked at doing that, I did have a PR to do that, but then somebody else, I think it was maybe Mark from the fish tab issue, is pointed out that there were some issues with Z shell completion. And so there's a lot of moving pieces there, and trying to get, I certainly didn't want to disrupt Z shell completion, because I know a lot of people have asked for things to work in that for a long time, and finally we got it into a good spot. So I don't want to mess up Bash or Z shell. So anyway, I pulled it back, and somebody else, I think it was Knight42, said that he would look at that, and I pointed him to what I had done and said he could use that if he wanted.
Can I ask, did you use the same Go Bash completion libraries that Customize uses?
I don't know I'm not familiar with what Customize uses.
Might be worth just doing a sanity check, making sure that we just choose one instead of having, trying to support two bugs, or trying to support like two different libraries with different sets of bugs. And then if they're different, we can pick, try and evaluate which one's better. Try and find a link for that now.
Does Customize use what Cobra 1.0 has? Well, I'll take a look at Customize and see.
It uses Posner Complete. I'll send you a link. It doesn't use the Cobra ones. We looked at them, but we chose not to for a couple of reasons. So yeah, why don't you follow up with me offline? We can figure out what the preferred approach is.
Ryan, you okay if I close that with this comment?
The
track
fish
it in the other one.
The fish
Yeah.
tab completion. I guess the other issue doesn't specifically address fish tab. I don't know.
Okay.
It's up to you. I guess I would be concerned somebody apparently people really want fish tab completion, and they might see that and come back and say, why'd you close that? But it's up to you.
It's probably worth considering, like, is it a lot of people that kind of want fish tab completion, or is it like 5 people that really want fish tab completion?
Well, there's 25 thumbs up, so maybe 25, but I don't know. That might be it. I don't know how many people out there. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the other cool thing about this dashboard is it shows you the emojis sorted. So there's 33 thumbs up. People really want it. Okay, I'll leave it for now. I'm going to prioritize it so it gets out of this queue, though. I can't spell priority today.
It looks like the Posner libraries support fish too, for what it's worth at a glance.
PowerShell completion, 37 thumbs up.
So I looked at this one briefly when I was looking at the fish tab stuff, and the PowerShell completion is not going to work as nicely as any of the other completions. That's not to say we shouldn't do it, but it doesn't have, I don't think it has like dynamic completion or anything like that out of the box. Well, I just see that comment there, PS kubectl completion module. So I don't know, maybe there's already something out there that can do it.
Okay. I think we need to have like a full completion discussion at some point, probably on a regular SIG call. Whenever you figure out what you're doing with whatever research you figure out with what you were just talking about with Phil.
Yeah, that would be great. Eddie, do you want to make sure that we don't drop the ball on that one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me toss that on here. Next one is 650. Thank you for that poke, Phil. Set image validating CRDs and fails.
That looks like a customized bug. And since we're using very outdated version of customize, it probably can even be already fixed. So I'll leave there a comment that suggesting to use a newer customize because the one in kubectl is pretty outdated.
Cool. Wait command more robust. 665.
I wouldn't call it a bug, but I would call it, I would definitely a feature. Kubectl wait is pretty new. I think it's still in alpha or something like that in infancy. So we can definitely tag it as a feature, not a bug.
Sean beat me to it. Already backlog. Okay. $7.25. This is opened by Sean.
I think this is just for tracking and making the information, what happens with convert public. it's going to happen hopefully in 120 that we will convert it to a plugin. So this is more of a informational type of an issue.
What priority can
Yeah,
we
that was
toss
just
on here?
important soon.
Yeah.
Not that we've gotten to it.
I'm hoping that with that library Go that I spoke about some time ago, we should, once we reach the agreement on the naming, because as we all know, naming is super hard. It's the hardest part of engineering. The rest should be pretty easy.
Yeah, so that just to give a little bit of context for that, it's going to be just pulling the package command convert code and putting it in under command foo or convert, maybe with a K. All of that code has to be out of kube control and compiled into its own binary. It's actually, there's not a whole lot there.
And that will that live as a plugin? Sorry, I missed the context.
Yeah, you will basically be able to install convert as a plugin. And the reason for that is convert has to live and has to continue to be built from the main Kubernetes repository, because the dependencies, the way it is working under the covers, it requires the internal APIs that will never be extracted from the main Kubernetes repository. And so for it to work properly, it has to, it will be always strictly connected with the main Kubernetes repo. And so we will just build it as a plugin. So people interested in having them will have to just install the plugin. We'll try to make sure that it is part of the it is published in crew for ease of use.
Number 747. This sounds familiar. Okay, I'll take this one because work. And
So a lot of those are, sorry to interrupt, a lot of those are just, they set up the kube control wrong, or they set up how they, I mean, it may not be just one bug, and it may be just a lot of these are the API servers behind some firewall, or it's
EKS does some weird shit with IAM and RBAC mapping, so I'll take a look at this one and figure it out.
yeah, it seems to be very Amazon specific.
Yeah, I'll move it if I need to. 754.
Yeah, that looks like a valid bug.
What should the timeout, I mean, I guess the timeout, what do you think? Should the timeout be the overall timeout?
Do we redefine timeout in the wait command? I can't remember off the top of my head. We do redefine timeout in the wait flags.
This might be a good issue for someone looking to take on their first one.
Yeah, it's a valid thing. We probably just need to update, but basically wait, maybe we could, other option is to leave the timeout flag as is with the rest of the kubectl commands and have a separate wait timeout, which will be which will have this semantics. So maybe worthy also a change in the code as well.
Anyone on the call want to take that on?
You can definitely tag it as a first time issue.
Yes, I'm actually a first contributor. It's Jobus speaking, so I would be happy to take that one on.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cool.
What's your GitHub username?
It's Jobus, Jabus.
Actually, I don't think I can assign if you're not in the org. If you just go on there and type /assign, it'll assign it to you.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. I'll do that.
Thank you for volunteering.
And if you need to, if you need some help or guidance, go ahead and reach out to one of us on Slack. I'm Sean S3. Or Sean
Thank
S.
you. Thank you.
Slack is definitely the way to go. Emails are more difficult to make connections.
Next one is 797. Sean, this is assigned to you. I do get an error when running that. It's a very weird error message.
Okay.
It looks like it's just trying to evaluate a symlink directly.
Okay. 79. Okay.
797.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of and very close to updating, customizing kube control. Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
I just right now I've been writing an entry in the docs back as a PR because I saw this issue, and so I'll have a PR out in a second, and then we can just post that to the issue.
Great. Are you going to do that? You're going to post that?
Yeah. Give me 45 seconds. Almost there.
So this particular issue is connected with multiple other kubectl customized version issues, I believe. We all hopefully will all get them pointed to just one
I assigned it to you as well, Phil, just so it's tracked on your list.
So 8.18 looks like it's also a same version of this. So are we going to stick with the 797 version? I'll point the 818 to 797.
That sounds good. And then you can point them at the docs at the back in a second.
Um, 815. Customize kubectl apply-k-prune doesn't create generated resources. .815.
Yeah, those two may just be are they incompatible? So prune uses a label in order to specify what the previously applied set was, and maybe some GVKs. Yeah, with that prune whitelist. So I'll just assign this to me. I've been digging into prune, and so I'll if you could just assign that to me, I'll take this one on.
Okay. Update customize. This is 818. Would you say this is important soon on here?
Yeah, it's the same as 797, I think.
This is basically dependent on either moving kube control out or breaking those dependencies, both of which are happening. Mache, it's 120. Is that the estimated kube control can be built outside of Kubernetes?
I wouldn't go as far as build outside of Kubernetes, but I'm hoping that 120 will be when we will be entirely in staging. So theoretically, yes, it should be built out of that. The PR that I linked some time ago about library Go for shared libraries. As soon as this lands, we need to move the auth reconcile function, shared functionality, and then we're ready with moving auth reconcile as well. So, like I said,
so 120 is roughly when we could, when the code could be built outside of Kubernetes.
Yeah,
but we still need to figure out the process side.
Yeah. Once we want to have one thing at a time. Once we have kubectl in the staging repo, we can start knocking on the doors of the release team and try to figure out how to build kubectl from the main repo, from kubectl repo, and only then we will cut the link.
Cool.
Do you guys want that assigned to you, Phil and Sean?
So Jeff would be the more appropriate probably, but you could throw me on there.
Okay. I'll add Jeff too.
It's monopole.
808, bass drum.
There's a PR, and I was already on the PR, so I'm looking at it. Add a priority backlog.
Support kube config base 64 and var 825. It's not a terrible request. Does that need a kep? Is that too big of a feature? Or?
We would have to. So I ended up looking through the entire config loading code yesterday, and I was struck that half of the code is duplicated, and we have different loading proceedings between two files. One is reporting differently, and the other one is loading differently. But overall, yes, since we would be introducing additional environment variable, that will have to be supported over there. And this is part of the client Go. It will be a cross-SIG effort. So it will be both kubectl SIG CLI and SIG API machinery, because that would be a change in for them as well. We would have to support both the environment variable and additional flag probably.
Should we move this to the main repo then?
Yeah, that's a fair approach, because it's a bigger topic.
Next one, I'm typing that, is 826. Uh, 826. We don't want people using kubectl run, right? Isn't run deprecated for create anyway?
I think we might have even removed it, right?
No. We only remove the functionality of creating
The
anything
generators.
other than anything other than pods. So kubectl run will only create pod, and which is perfect for debugging and diagnostics. Notations, yeah, well, theoretically we could start adding everything there. I'm not sure if we want to. I would prefer to stay this minimal.
I think
That's a real, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, like, I think this actually might make sense as a separate tool on its own. Like, one thing about kube control and adding features to it is, like, we have like kind of a relatively strong definition of support, and people expect a certain level of support and version skew and all these constraints, right? And a lot of times I think folks are just looking for a command that allows them to, debug better, or I've heard for run, like it was about teaching people Kubernetes, and they like just wanted a simple way of teaching people how Kubernetes works. And so like it might be worth considering just saying, okay, let's build a separate command where, like, for debugging or teaching people to use Kubernetes or that sort of thing, you can kind of go nuts with features, and we don't offer a versions queue policy for it or any of that sort of thing. So as a way of kind of pushing back and saying, like, no, we're not going to expand the functionality of run because of those reasons of the amount of burden it puts on us for maintaining, but that here's a way that you can still get what you want.
You want to type something up to that regard?
So,
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that.
so our answer is that we're not going to do that, which sounds completely reasonable to me. Is that what we're deciding?
Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just curious what the to make sure that that's actually what we decided, was that we're not going to add to the kubectl run commands. And if that's the case, then maybe we want to like keep that as a policy for any other potential issues that come up like this.
Yeah, Majid, do you have any objection to taking that as a stance?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I want to keep kubectl run as simple as possible, and then point people towards other commands. So, yeah.
Taking the union of all features all people want is going to result in something that no one wants.
We will be again at the same point where we were a couple months back. We still, I mean, I just looked at the kubectl run help. It is 2 pages long, and 1 page is the amount. And 1 page, and I have pretty small font, so that's not 80 by 20. That's a lot more terminal that I have. And 1 entire page is just options that you can pass to kubectl run. And the more options there are, the more confusing the commands are for users to use. And this is only run itself flags. And if you add the kubectl flags, that can expand quickly to unmanageable mess.
The only thing I was going to say was this seems like a super reasonable request, especially with the real world example. I'm not pushing for it either way, right? But like, if this saves people's life, if this saves people time, right? Like, this is an extremely valid use case for anyone using Istio that wants to do this. But I totally get the other end of the spectrum too.
I would say too, though, that I mean, it's a valid use case, but it is also an Istio specific use case, really, because it's just that Istio looks for that annotation and will inject a sidecar if you don't have that annotation right away, right?
As a side note, it looks like it may be related to 893, which is also on our list. Wanting to generate a name
Also,
for kubectl run.
Also, there's always the -- override, which is a inline JSON. So it's not ideal, but it's, yeah.
That's fair. They can always alias this or write a little bash function if it, okay.
Exactly.
Am I reading this correctly? Is this like supporting inline patches into kubectl run?
Oh yeah, it does.
Like, so we just injected like all of customize into kubectl run, right? Or not all of it, right? But like the entire patch functionality of overlays into kubectl run. And it seems like just overkill.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Phil, who's responding to this one and closing it?
I'm writing it up now.
Okay. Thank you for taking that one.
Yeah. You already opened way too many. The next one was to be 829.
829.
But I already handled that one. There was an open PR that was missing approval. So, and I also put a priority on that one.
Approved documentation. Okay, kubectl top 830. Bless you.
Good first time issue.
Cool. Also already on there. Uh, 833. Too limited.
Yeah. I'm inclined to say that the request is too generic. But in all honesty, we are trying to add some of the run command functionality back to create commands, but these are per request, per particular request. I don't want to have add everything that was in run. I want to have a discussion per request, whether we care about this kind of functionality, whether it makes sense, whether there are alternatives that we can address them. So I'll leave a comment on that issue, and I'm going to close it.
Do you want me to add something to the future topics for the meeting? Okay, moving on.
Should we just document what we said about run in the SIG CLI meeting? We'll have it in the notes and in the video, and we can reference that whenever we turn down any other changes to the run request.
Actually, by the way, I misread the issue for run. Like, apparently we already support overrides.
Oh yeah, we do.
And that was the workaround, which I can't believe. So
right. That's why I was saying kubectl run was a big hammer that we've given to users, and it grew a ton of tech debt for us.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly the annotations is better than this override nonsense, but I think like today it's annotations and tomorrow it's, whatever.
Labels and
Labels.
Oh, labels are already there.
Resources. Yeah, there's labels are already there, but the annotation is the one thing that isn't supported. The labels are. I don't know. If someone filed a PR, I'd be inclined to accept it, but I wouldn't prioritize it. Like,
it's a very good first-time issue.
Yeah.
Sure.
I misread that one. So maybe I'll respond, but I think like because labels are supported and because overrides is like terrible, I think accepting this one's okay, but I'll also comment that like we really don't want to add any functionality to run. So this is kind of a special case.
it might be useful to have a document which describes here's where you use run, here's where you use create, here's where you use apply, with apply obviously being the one that we are pushing everybody towards. I think that there may be some confusion as to the many different ways that we can create these resources and which one is appropriate for which, and then once we have that written down, we'll know which options we need to support for every single one of these. Take a more holistic approach towards these run, create, apply, prune issues. What do you guys think? That must have gotten everybody excited.
If anyone on the call wants a great first issue, we always say it's easier than it sounds, but like this is like adding a flag and passing the results through. So this seems really easy if anyone wants to take this up.
It's the hello world of ku-control run.
Yeah.
Yeah, but please don't be scared about the mess that it is inside of run. Majority is deprecated already. We just need to wait for the clock to end up ticking, and we will clean it.
The coding on this one will be easy. The hard part will be getting the EDE test to pass through their flakes and hitting retest 4 or 5 times.
It's a mess. I mean, literally every single PR, both in Kubernetes and OpenShift today for me fails. All the resources are being exhausted for me. I'm getting constant flakes across the board, and I'm having meetings since this is like 6th or 7th hour of meetings for me today. So yeah, bad day, very bad day.
Sorry, I don't remember how to pronounce your name. Yabis, were you interested in that one?
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to raise my hand on that one. So I would be happy to take on that one. So I'll just assign it again to myself.
Yep. And sorry, is it Yabis or Jabis?
Yabis. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right. What's the number on that one? I can't see it now.
That one is 826.
826, okay.
So
next is, sorry,
real quick, Yavis, there's a good video that Maciej created that you can find on Slack for the basics of kubectl development, which will significantly help you out in your journey to write that kind stuff, that run stuff.
Okay. All right. Where about in the Slack channel would I find that? In the SIG CLI
It's
channel?
pinned, I think. So Maciej will have a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pinned, correct, Maciej?
I can't remember, but in the worst case, if you ping me on Slack, I'll point you to the right recording, and then we can pin the message. If it's not in the pinned message, if it's not in the pinned.
All right.
Yeah, there is. It is pinned. Check the code base tour from.
it is the only pin. Hooray.
Yeah, it's the only pin.
All right, we got 8 minutes left. 837. I've never heard of kind list before as a resource.
It's a internal thing that is being extensively used, but it, just like Brian explained, each resource will have a type list. So you'll see a pod list, cron job list, deployment list, whatever, and the list is a meta type that is being used only in the code. So it's not a bug. And I'm pretty sure that the Brian explanation is a very good one there.
Should we close this then?
Yeah,
or does...
I'm going to close it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like one thing we could do is we could just say like in the kube control documentation that you get like what list is when you as part of the kube control get documentation. I think that's like one of the only places really you encounter it. Yeah, I'm curious where they encounter it otherwise and why it's important that they understand what it is outside that context. So they answer their question if they said where would you document it? The answer would be kube control get probably.
Number 841. This is a locales issue. April 5th. This will hit FetaBot soon.
I tried to reproduce that a few different ways and I couldn't make it happen.
I'm curious where he is using those. If he tried to, maybe his issue was that after he exec into a pod and then invoked the bash, he was not able, but that's just a matter of setting the right locale, the right environment variables in the pod, and that should work.
All right, I closed it and told him to reopen if we can reproduce it.
Yeah, okay.
843. Add custom trusted CA when connecting through HTTP proxy with deep packet inspection with a man-in-the-middle cert.
Honestly, I don't see any other option than if his company is using man-in-the-middle proxy, then the only reasonable way is to have the proxy CA and the CA certificate installed. That's what usually happens, and I'm not seeing us adding some extra flags or commands to bypass that kind of a functionality. Also, it's a more of a question for SIG auth than us.
It's going to close tomorrow, so let's just not touch it and let it.
That's fine.
How much time? 3 minutes. Any of these on the list that anyone wanted to bring up? Make sure we get to it.
So 893 is also a run issue.
Nah, that's not gonna
No.
happen. I want to have a user be explicit about the naming. I'm worried if we start naming them automatically, we might bump into issues of, oh, this name was already used and kubectl run should be smart enough not to reuse the same name, etc., etc. No.
Maybe could we just have like a canned response for every issue that has kube control run, requesting the user explain why they're using kube control run, why they're not using apply, and like, are they using it purely for debugging or for teaching or for development or what? Because I'd really like to know if folks are using this to run their workloads in production or not.
Yeah, that would be reasonable.
Real quick, let's look at, oh, sorry, who's going to respond to that one?
I'll close that one.
Okay. I wanted to bring this one up. 894, support private Git repos for kubectl apply.
No. Should use, like, this can be solved by like kept just fetching the repo and applying locally. Like, I mean, it's kind of my thought. You could use it like another tool to go grab it. Just KPT. Like, I guess my position is, if we want to get in the business of like kube control applying to Git repos and making that experience really good, then we need to like actually get in that business and then like call out like, is that packaging or is that not packaging or that sort of thing. Because it seems like in the past we've been pretty hand wavy about what we support, and it's mostly been, okay, we'll apply, we support it through customize and we apply it through to a URL. But if we're going to start applying Git directories from -f, then I'd like to like really flesh out what we want the full Git experience to be like.
Yeah, once we add Git, there will be a request for Mercurial repos, SVN repos. Add your version control system of your choosing repo.
And there's the transitive closure of dependencies, whether it's going to pull in dependencies. It's actually quite a big area. Yeah. It's not as simple as it looks.
And yeah, I'm less concerned about the other Git or the other non-Git version control systems. I mean that there is that too. I think I'm more thinking like, do we want, like, where have we drawn the line on what's in scope for what we're working on, right? So like, the reason that kept the logic around pulling down packages was done outside of the Kubernetes project, right, was because of this notion that that was out of scope for what we're doing as part of the project itself. And if we are saying, actually, this is in scope and we want to like do more around this, then I'd like to clarify, like, okay, if this is in scope, then is doing this but pulling it down to a directory and then running kube control plan that directory out of scope? And if it is, why or why not, and that sort of thing are kind of where my questions are. And so maybe this is, if we don't agree that it is out of scope, or we're not sure, then maybe we should have a follow-up discussion on that. But it just seems like a longer discussion than we're going to get in this bug triage.
I mean, a simple answer to that is create a plugin, show us that the plugin is successful and is being broadly used in the community, then we can think of adding that functionality to the core. That's probably the best option for us. And that's one of the reasons that why we went with kubectl plugins, to allow people to experiment quickly, gather feedback, improve, and return to us with their success that they achieved through a plugin, and then we can reassess whether this kind of functionality will make sense in the broader community.
Yeah, I mean, the plugin is going to be difficult to implement, right? Because they're really asking for it to be in kube control apply, and so it's going to. I'm not exactly sure how they'd write the plug. Like they essentially have to invoke the kube control apply libraries and do some of the same work that Sean has done with apply and CLI utils, where you kind of have to like put code into the hooks we've exposed. So it's not like trivial to write this plugin, but if they're serious about it, they should be able to do it.
Yep.
I'm muted. And with that, we are out of time and done.
Okay. Thank you very much, all. Have a great the rest of the day. Bye.
Hey, we should have like a celebration on the 10th bug scrub, or like the anniversary of like the first one or something. I don't know, just to celebrate.
Getting down
that,
from like 400 issues.
Yeah, I mean, or something, right? Like to celebrate that like Eddie introduced this process, and I think we should celebrate like its success when we hit some sort of arbitrary milestone. So,
how far we are? Out of curiosity, are we close to 10 a year? I think we started at the beginning of this year.
Either January or February was the first one.
Probably
We do.
agenda has. Yeah, definitely.
But it wouldn't be possible without all you being great mentors. So thanks for coming and explaining to us noobs as we get up to date.
bye everyone, and thanks Manche
Thanks.
for your
Bye.
awesome intro. You need an awesome bye as well. You got to work on the bye.
I'll try to figure out something.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, team.